And then I look up everywhere. I went in all the churches and looked and can't find Jesus. There were a lot of pictures, of course. Pictures with stars around the head, stabs, knives plunged in the side, all kind of things, crosses, stations, and still couldn't find Jesus. So I asked everywhere I go, what happened to Jesus? No pictures of Jesus here? And everybody said, yeah. What do you mean you just come out of the... You didn't see one? I said, no. I looked and looked, and I didn't see, not even his cousin. I didn't see anybody. So they said, go back and look. I went back. I looked. Still no Jesus. So one brother came in and said, there. I said, the meaning the Roman fellow there? And they said, no, that's Jesus. I said, when? What happened to him? I mean, who did what? Who gave him an injection or something? And I kept looking hard. I knew that, the done in my Jesus again. So finally somebody said, well, that's not the real one. That's the one that Michelangelo painted. I said, you mean to paint Jesus wrong too? And so they said, well, that's the one that the Pope Julius II approved in 1909. And I mean in 1509. And that's the one we have adopted. So I went to the Chinese neighborhood to see if, since I know a lot of Chinese Christians, I knew that in Chinatown they have adopted the one for Michelangelo. Obviously, everybody did. So I went to Chinatown, and lo and behold, Jesus looked like Chinese. So I said, oh, it's strange. Michelangelo painted a Chinese Jesus? And I was going around the world, and everywhere I found, when I found Jesus looked like the people in the congregation and the man in the pulpit. I came back in my neighborhood and said, by the time I get back, maybe he would be also like the people in my neighborhood. And up to today, I haven't found. The only people I found who have a Jesus look like them was my people. So I asked Dr. Clark the other day, I said, John, do you know where I could find a Jesus look like me? And he said, yes, back in the books. So that's the Jesus I want to discuss with you in terms of his role with an African people. His role as recorded in the scriptures with African people. His role as before the Nicene Conference and during the Nicene Conference and after the Nicene Conference of Bishops in 324. But also the landmass that he dealt with. When considering Jesus, if at any time Jesus went to Europe in person other than philosophically or theosophically, because you're going to say that Jesus has been all over the world and is of the world and the world is of Jesus. Sure, theosophically. But now I'm talking about physically in the flesh when he walked on earth. There is no record showing any appearance of Jesus any place in Europe. On the other hand, there are records showing 2 times Jesus in the presence of African people, and one specifically is after a few days of his birth, having had to run to Egypt because of Herod wanting to destroy him. And in the second incident, he is now 12 years old. He has challenged the intellectuals in the synagogue, and for whatever the reason, he again returns to Egypt until he is 30 years of age, and then when he is subsequently killed at age 33. This is the life of Jesus in a capsule form. Thus we see a Jesus with 2 experiences on 2 continents. One, the original of his birth on the continent of Asia, that is provided. You are going to accept the one that came out of the Nicene Conference, that version. Another, if you accept the pre-Nicene Conference version, he is born in Ethiopia in a cave. That is the original Coptic version. But in either case, he's born in a land of, as expression goes, of color. He is not of a European land at all. Nowhere in any of the literature, regardless of where you plan to have Jesus being born from a physical mother, Mary. So that must put us to a question: if he was born in Africa or Asia, among who are the people he most looked like, or the people he was like in his human life? And we must assume, by virtue of the evidence presented to us, he had to have looked like someone or anyone in this room. By virtue of the time span, and this is difficult for us because it is hard, we sometimes would prefer to say Jesus had no color than to admit that he possibly could have been black. We heard from bronze to no color at all. And that the last no color at all we could eliminate, because if Jesus had no color, John the Baptist would have had a tough time baptizing him, because he would have been unable to find him. So we can't hide behind that one. We can hide if you said Jesus was chartreuse or rainbow like Jesse Jackson, or any kind of color, fantastic as it may be, but none at all. You got to get up on it, unless you're talking about the invisible man. And then Jesus would have to be wrapped in a lot of, more than swaddling band, he would have to be wrapped with a lot of gauze around his head for John the Baptist to have seen him. So we better deal with Jesus the Christ as when Jesus the Christ appeared on earth as a human, a male. And that is the point where we find ourselves in a dilemma. We find ourselves in this dilemma because we have been unable to even look at ourselves in reality. When we look in the mirror, what reflects from the mirror isn't what we want to see at all. I mean, when we're dealing with ourselves, we're putting on Miss Jane Pearl, or what's the other, Brandy, Mary Kay, or anything like that. That's the sisters, of course. The brothers put on anything, including Lord. And regardless of what we look at ourselves, we don't see black folks coming back from the mirror. Somehow the mirror makes a transformation from the eyeballs back to the brain. The mirror do a double swing. And when the mirror does the double swing about us, ourselves, you could imagine what it does in the God concept that we have. Because even when we close our eyes to pray, and if you want something to be as black as it could possibly be, is with your eyes tightly shut, you shouldn't be able to see much more than what your mind tells you that you may be observing. And yet in there, we can't see Jesus as ourselves, or definitely his mother. Yet we are told by Josephus and others, all of them speak of a non-European Jesus. And I use the word non-European to ease your pain. Suppose I translate, Josephus saw a black Jesus in his writing.